Welcome to the Odyssey movie. Here we're going to provide summary and analyze the major themes within the epic poem.
In this epic poem, along with many other stories, there are many monomyths and hero journey archetypes that are included within the story. These monomyths include the call to adventure, a refusal of the call, supernatural aid, the crossing of the first threshold, descent into darkness, woman as temptress, and master of the two worlds. Many of these monomyths can be found inside of the Odyssey through Odysseus' journey as he tries to go home to Ithaca. Now for the archetypes, there are many archetypes within this story. These archetypes include heroes, shadows, mentors, heralds, thresholds, guardians, shapeshifters, tricksters, and allies. These archetypes are very important in many stories, and many of these archetypes can be found inside of the Odyssey. After the Trojan War, the protagonist Odysseus, who plays the role of the hero of the story, still has not returned to his native land of Ithaca. The poem tells the story about the 10-year journey that he took to get back home.
After the Trojan War, the protagonist, Odysseus, who plays the role of the hero of the story, still has not returned to his native land of Ithaca. The poem tells a story about the 10-year journey that he took to get back home.
The nymph Calypso has Odysseus trapped on her island, and Odysseus wants to leave there so that he can go home. Eventually, the gods decide that Odysseus can leave the island, and she plays the role of a herald since she allows him to leave. While on the island, Odysseus lives with many luxuries, and Calypso takes him into her caves. By leaving the island, Odysseus resists the great temptation of staying with Calypso.
After he leaves the island, Poseidon, who plays the role as a shadow of a story, sets a storm on Odysseus' ship to throw off his journey. Poseidon is mad at Odysseus for blinding his son, Polyphemus, the Cyclops.
Finally, Odysseus gets home after the long, difficult journey. He comes in disguised as a beggar so that no one recognizes his true identity. His wife Penelope holds a contest to see who can shoot a bow through a row of 12 axes, and she says that she will marry whoever can do it. After all the suitors try and fail, the disguised Odysseus does the task with ease.
After Odysseus does this, he has all of the suitors locked in his palace. Along with his son Telemachus, Odysseus kills all of the suitors. Despite being told that only one of the suitors are at fault, he decides not to spare any of them. By succeeding in this battle against the suitors, Odysseus proves that he succeeds in war and adventure.
Throughout the epic poem, when things are not going well for the characters of the story, they blame the gods instead of placing the blame on themselves. The poem explores a theme that it is human nature to blame supernatural powers during difficult times. An example of blaming the gods comes when Odysseus, his son, Telemachus, is complaining about all the suitors lounging in his house. While they are in his house, trying to marry his mother, Penelope, and taking all of his food, he responds to their actions by saying, "Once this house was rich, no doubt, beyond reproach when the man you mentioned still lived here, at home. Now the gods have reversed our fortunes with a vengeance." Book 1, lines 270 through 272.
Telemachus blaming the gods in this situation proves how it is human nature to blame the gods. While he is angered by all the suitors being in his house, he decides to blame the gods for his misfortune instead of putting it on himself to get the suitors out of his house. Instead of crying out to the gods because of his problems, he should have been assertive and do what he can to kick out the suitors. In the beginning of the story, it is shown how the gods are aware about how people blame them for their difficulties. The god Zeus calls out the humans for their tendency to blame gods when he tells the other Olympians, "Ah, how shameless, the way these mortals blame the gods. For us alone, they say, come all their miseries. Yes, but they themselves, with their own reckless ways, compound their pains beyond their proper share." Book 1, line 37 through 4.
The fact that Zeus criticizes humans for blaming him and the other gods for their miseries proves how it is human nature to blame the gods in difficult times. Over the course of the epic poem, it is shown how the humans blame gods for their problems, and Zeus calling it out proves how doing so is human nature. Through the events of the story, we are able to explore the theme that it is human nature to blame the gods for our problems. With the events in the story, we are able to learn that it is not effective to blame the gods, and that to get what we want, we must take action and responsibility and get it done on our own.
Thank you for watching.